Hi, everyone. Back to Move for a Movement. I am here with the lovely Hannah Russell. As I've said, come for the Aussie accent, stay for just the warmth and insight. Hannah is a performer and dance educator in NYC. Also, she's done a lot of that work in Australia. And we are, most important thing, she is the director and founder of Vivid Dance, which is a company aimed at helping dancers really hone down, refine their goals, and how they can make their unique impact on the dance world and the wider world. So thank you so much for being here today, Hannah.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to chat.
Yeah, so this one passage I'll read out from the Vivid website really struck me, and I think it encompasses a lot about what Vivid is about and what I know of it. Vivid offers resources and courses for artists who wish to refine their talent, combine their talent and skills and characteristics of an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurship is not just about making millions, it's about having a vivid idea of who you are, what you have to offer, and having courage to step out and share your creativity and talent for the benefit of others. Can you share a little bit about how that evolved for you, that vision and that concept, and why it matters to you, why you think it's important?
Yeah. So I created Vivid. It's a combination of my journey and what I've learned over the past 10 years, basically since 2011, because that's when I graduated my full-time dance course. I went to Edinburgh back in Sydney, and obviously we spent every single day dancing at Edinburgh. It was a little bit different to a college degree like what you have here in the States, but we would dance from 8 to 4 during the day, 5 days a week. So once you finish your year of full-time dance in Australia, you're like, I am ready to audition and get a job. But obviously I was still 19 years old. So I went straight into the route of auditions and expected to obviously not get every audition, but get something. And, you know, it didn't work out that way. So then I spent the next few years exploring my different options, and I started college in music theatre, and then I moved into arts and music management, which was basically a business degree. And when I did that degree, I learned a lot of other facets about the arts industry that I hadn't learned in full-time dance. And even though I was physically ready to audition and perform as a dancer, I wasn't mentally ready and I wasn't emotionally intelligent enough. And even though I thought I was. And so I kind of just ran into all these different pathways for a good period of five or so years before I moved to the United States. I had a lot of different experiences. And then I decided to move to the States. And obviously, the first time I came over here, I was a student. So I moved over by myself. And when you move overseas by yourself and you have no idea, you get into a pretty vulnerable state, but you also have to really take a lot of risks, exercise a lot of courage, and just be brave enough to try new things, but also meet new people. So when I moved over here, that was kind of the beginning of my second journey into the arts industry again. And I felt revitalized, but I'd also started to see things very differently to when I was 19 and I was auditioning. So when I moved overseas, I approached things with more of a business mindset because I'd done that degree. And I did focus a lot on entrepreneurialism during that degree. And what I started to realize was that we are basically artistic entrepreneurs. So entrepreneurs do the same thing. They're not like people in the corporate world who just want to climb the ladder and become a CEO. You know, an entrepreneur is someone that sees an opportunity and has a vision, and then they create goals. And even though that vision may not become a reality straight away. The entrepreneur mindset is we're going to keep trying. We're not going to give up until we get there. We're going to do whatever it takes, but we're going to exercise our skills in all these different areas, network, learn new things. And I really started to explore being an artist myself, but, you know, thinking about these business things as well. And that's how the name Vivid came about as well, because when you create a vision for yourself, like the definition for Vivid is to create a clear, strong image in your mind that's powerful, that's deep, and it also means color, intensely deep and bright. And if we want to be artists, we have to know why we do it, and then we have to have a vision for ourselves, because otherwise we're just auditioning and performing for someone else, which is not what an entrepreneur would do. That's what an employee would do. So it's like a full rounded thing. And I think as soon as I started personally to create a vision for myself and set goals, which are things that I learned in business school, it became much easier for me to navigate my career, but also to see when things weren't in alignment with what I truly wanted, and to be able to make the right decisions to go on my own path. And also just to like fill in the gaps where sometimes I feel like things weren't working. You know, what can I do? How can I help others? Which is another facet of entrepreneurialism, which if we think about as artists and dancers, we're so self-focused a lot of the time, because we need to train ourselves, and we need to, we want this job, we want this, we want that. But if we just like take a moment to step back and see, okay, how can my personal skills and talents help someone else? Which is what entrepreneurs do when they create a product or they see an opportunity and they create a service. Usually they have an aspect of helping others within that product and service, or as part of their company. And I just thought, why not create a program with everything that I have learned over the past few years personally, what I've learned from other people that have been around, which has been in many different cities, because it changes in different cities as well, the people that you're around. And why don't I put this into a program and see if I can help dancers who are, you know, going through full-time dance in college. They're at the end of their high school years and they're kind of unsure about which direction they want to go. But then also the artists that are more mature artists and they have already done the audition thing, and they just need to find clarity again about who they are and what they have to offer. So basically that's Vivid in a nutshell, and that's why I use that little quote about entrepreneurialism. Because I just got really excited about it when I went to college, when I went to school. And, you know, I used to think business was like a dark black hole and like you'd sit in an office all day, but it's actually quite a creative thing. And I think, you know, as artists, if we want to work in this industry, we also need to approach it as though we're a business. So, yeah.
Amazing. So much wonderful stuff there. I feel like we could pull apart a little bit more. But especially it's so interesting, that distinction between, like, in the context of the arts, the difference between an entrepreneur and an employee. And it's like neither is wrong or right, but do you want to take the reins for yourself? Like, is that the goal for you? And how do you do that? Right? Becomes the question. And I thought it was also interesting, you know, underscoring through your experience, you know, being a dancer and you can do these things physically, but are you mentally and emotionally there? Right? Because that's really what a performer is. And I think so much of that comes from experience. That doesn't mean you need to be a certain age, right? But it's also that skill of like bringing your experience to your performance, to who you are as an artist. What you do with art, which it seems like that's a big part of Vivid. Like, who you are, what are you going to do with that in your art and your career, and also to serve others. Yeah.
And I guess having the courage to, even if you feel like you know that inside, like what I try to do with the programs is also just be a support network to whoever I have doing the program, and just reassuring that what they are thinking and what they are dreaming and, you know, who they are inside themselves is valuable and can be valuable for someone else. So like, share your art, share your talent, and be courageous in that, especially for the younger artists who aren't quite sure, you know, everyone's doing this, but I don't really feel kind of like I want to do that. And I'm like, that's cool. You're your own artist. You have your own voice. And you know, part of what I hope that Vivid is, you know, bringing to these younger artists is the strength to, you know, be assertive within what they want and what they value, and then obviously share that. So yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, and that segues nicely into my next question. I'm wondering if you have stories you can share about impact that Vivid has made, that you've seen these artists be able to take and apply to what they do, or just, you know, things that have inspired you, perhaps, that how they've responded to the program, how they're engaging, any particular stories that you could share. Love to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I sometimes, you know, I forget how much of an impact the program does have on some dancers, because everyone who takes it, it's a really different conversation with whoever takes it. Especially, you know, it's the same content that I practically share with the 14 to 18-year-olds as I do with the 18 plus. However, the conversation is completely different. And there is, and sometimes I get really inspired. Well, I do all the time get really inspired from the conversation. But there was this one particular girl who was 14, and she started to do Vivid back when I first created the program in Australia. She was one of my first people through to complete the whole thing. And I actually didn't know her before completing Vivid with her. She came and did the program. It was recommended by a friend of mine. And you could tell she was just so passionate about dancing, but she had a lot of struggles at school, and she had a few struggles in dance class as well, just like with confidence stepping forward, but then also the people that she was around. And I know that she felt really valuable in our sessions with Vivid, because her mum has reached out to me multiple times and said, thank you so much. You know, she's really listened to this, like she's coping better. And then, you know, there is a part 2 to Vivid as well, where we actually teach the younger students how to schedule their week, the practical parts of it as well. And her mum was like, she now schedules her week, and she doesn't complain about not having time anymore. And if I had taught her that, she wouldn't have listened. So I know that Vivid was a great program for her. And then I recently did the program with a 21-year-old, and she was like, wow, this wasn't what I expected. And I said, what did you expect? And she's like, oh, I thought we were just setting goals. I thought it was like how you set goals and like you do it with me. And I said, well, yeah, that's coming next week in part 2. I said, but we got to get the groundwork down first. And she's like, yeah, I've never really thought about my why and my values so deeply, and how I use them to create my goals, but also understand how meaningful my goals are. And she's like, the way that you break it down and the prompts that you give have really made me think about, you know, how I move forward. And it's been really encouraging. But she also said, there is a part of the course where I say, so how can you use your goals to help others? And for the older ones, some of them really know that, but some of them also haven't thought about it for a while. So like, that's a really great question. And I know that it has made the people that are my age, like, think again, because it makes me think. My own course makes me think all the time, because they're activities that I've done. So yeah.
Right. Wonderful. Yeah. Again, so much to pick apart, but I can tell that, like you were saying, it's so tailored to each individual. Like there is the customized coursework, you know, this is module 1, module but you do in those conversations, sounds like you can really see what they need and go from there. And I sort of don't see how it could be effective without that approach, right? Because especially artists, like there's just so much range of who we are, which is a beautiful thing.
Which is nice. I mean, because you can do it privately with me, or you can do it in a small group with your close friends, or we do it as a studio group. So that is the nice thing about it being like a personalized course as well, because like you said, I have the structure, but I'm so ready for it to go off topic, because it's really just making you think about you, you know. It's making you think in a different way. So
and for studios, I could see it being so, bringing in so much of a healthier atmosphere to, like, especially competitive studios. Like some are fine, some have a great sort of energy and dynamic, but there's some cattiness and just meanness that does happen. So that I think what you're doing can really start those conversations. It's like, is this behavior, is it helping us reach our goals, right? And it becomes, no, why not? Like what would be more effective? What would make us feel better?
Yeah. I mean, the positive thing about doing it in a studio group is, like you said, that, but also like each dancer spends time thinking about what they personally want, but then they have the opportunity to share that with the group. And like, obviously I want to create a safe space. And then I talk about how we help one another. And that goes into the team building part. And which is, like you said, what studios need. Like they need that culture, because, you know, then their teams can really thrive if they all know, if each dancer knows what each other wants, but then can start growing and learning and taking class with intention, but also being able to support their friend who might not be having a great day, then that's when your competition routines are going to really, you know, stand out. So that's why I wanted to have a studio option available as well.
Amazing. I love it. I also want to ask you, and I will preface with, you're the first person who's not like US born, US primarily based that I've had on the show, and that's something I want to change for sure. That being said, I'm wondering about differences you see, like you spoke about culture, right, between the US dance community and the Australian dance community, and what kind of feels different, what's done different, and what effects did that have on artists, on their work, on the sort of ecosystem of dance in the two countries. Yeah, if you could speak to that.
Yeah. To be honest, like there is difference. I think America can learn some things from Australian artists, and Australia can learn some things from American artists. And I'm so grateful that I've had the opportunity to be in both lands, because Australian dancers are really well trained. Like they are really disciplined, they're really determined, and you know, they're very talented. Like, and I realize that you think New York, and I come to New York and like you see Australian artists in the room and you're like, wow, this person's amazing. But the thing is, like, I don't know, we have full-time training programs in Australia. It's a big thing to go to full-time dance when you finish high school. And it's like, some people take it as a gap year. Some people do 1 or 2 years, and then some people do their year of full-time dance, and then they're booked, they go and work. And it's just really focused training for a year, but it's hard because you're actually you're physically feeling what it would be like to be in a show, you know. And so you learn that straight away, and you're working with the professionals in the room every single day. So the discipline and the training that comes from Australia, and the work ethic. And then I guess what you can really learn in America that I think is missing a little bit from Australia is the foundations of every style. Like,
interesting.
And I think that's only because especially, I can only speak to New York. I can't speak to LA because I haven't lived there. But in New York, you are training with teachers that have learnt from the greats, or they are like great pioneers of these styles, especially jazz and hip hop and contemporary in this city. Like, everyone really knows their stuff. And that has had to be carried over to Australia from people that have come and trained over here. Like, yes, there are some great teachers in Australia that really know their stuff, but I don't know if it's everywhere. Like, I'm really in New York City right now. I'm in amongst it. Like, I have friends that have worked with, you know, Fosse, and like, you know, it's kind of, it's a surreal feeling, but, you know, and like people who are on Broadway every night, and you're just all in this one pool. So like, you really got it, like in this city, you really do learn the classic dance, the fundamentals. So yeah, I think there are two big differences, and there's pros and cons to both. So
right. That's interesting, because it's one of those buzzwords in the dance world right now, or at least in the American dance world, which is the context that I know most, versatility, right? And perhaps it's a Broadway thing, or even in LA, you know, that showbiz over there. That helps you book jobs, right? If you can spin a basketball on your finger, like your special skills, like that's something, maybe that helps you book a job.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Aussies are versatile and they can pick up these things, but you know, there's some things that are, it's you've got to understand the roots of the style. So, and that's just something that you get by living in New York and being able to train so closely with all these people. So,
and in an experiential way, because there's a difference between taking class from that person and reading about them in a book and watching video.
Exactly.
It's interesting. Yeah, I love it. That's also a good segue for my question about your experience with the U.S. immigration system. Just because I know you and I've worked with you through press on it. It's been a lot, through the ringer, pretty much. I'm wondering about, like, from your experience, what you see. If you were in charge, right, of the visa system for artists, what would you change, right, to make it more accessible, just more understandable, easier to navigate, and something that really supports artists?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a tough question, because every single artist visa case is completely different. Like, I did have a challenging time, and that was purely just because of paperwork and wait times. Like, I thought I was going home for 4 weeks to swap my visa and come back, and I got here 11 months later. I was wearing the same black scuba hoodie to teaching in Australia, and one kid says to me, "Do you own any other sweaters?" And I'm like, "I do, they're just in New York City." Yeah. I made it back eventually. The challenging thing about that process is that you have to prove, I guess, your ability on paper, and that, you know, the arts is your area of expertise, which is a valid thing to need to prove, right? Because you need to prove that you are valuable to the United States. However, dancers, I think, just have it a little tougher than people like writers and actors and comedians, because dance, majority of the time, the previous work that you've done as a dancer is within an ensemble, and the work that you're probably going to do is within an ensemble or in a group of some form, right? So it's a lot easier for, you know, a writer to be like, here's my work and it got these awards and it was just me that did this work. Whereas like dancers, you're in a pool of people like all the time, you know, how can you show that you stand out? So that was a tough aspect of it. And then I guess the fact that it's not digital So I killed a lot of trees, a lot, like with printing off my portfolio. So it would be easier if it was digital. But I mean, within the context of the visa, I can't speak too much to, you know, what needs to change. It's a tough visa to get, but it's totally possible. And I didn't think it was possible for a very long time, and that was only because of the mixed things that I'd heard from people, because everyone's had a different experience. And then I actually worked with a visa coach, Catherine from Visa Pack, which was really empowering to me, because I worked with a lawyer as well, but the combination of the lawyer and the coach, like, really helped me to get clear on my paperwork, and I had a lot of control about what I was submitting, and they coached me through the process, and you know, helped to get rid of all of those little things that I'd heard that made me think it was impossible. So that's kind of how I got through that process. Also, they were just really encouraging, and everyone around me was really encouraging. So I would just say grab a visa coach if you if you want to go through this process. And yeah, it's challenging. There's things like I would love to change, but I understand it as well. So yeah.
Yeah. Whew. I know, like, I can barely do my taxes. Like, if I had to do that, I would need all the coaching in the world. I'll just say that much.
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely a time in my life where I had to just be like, whew, okay. Yeah, 2018.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you do a lot of performing, and you also teach. So I'm wondering, how much have you taught through COVID? I know I took one class of yours at one point, which was so much fun. Yeah, what's that been like? That experience of like Zoom or whatever platform you're using, and like, yeah, what's that been like for you?
Yeah, I mean, dancers are just so quick at adapting to things, because we have to do that all the time. It's not like we go to the same job every day. Like, it's always different. So I think everyone adapted pretty quickly. I mean, it's not ideal to be on Zoom, is it? But at least teaching and taking class is the one thing that has survived. I mean, we can't go to shows, but like, the best we've got is we can still actually train and take class together. I think it's, I mean, I've learned a lot from teaching in respect to being clear with what I say, knowing my left and right, reversing choreography. Sometimes I used to always avoid that in the classroom, but you know, you're on Zoom, you have to do it.
Right.
But then also, like, what I notice in the students is that they've had to like really think about what they're doing. Like, they can't copy anyone else anymore in the room. So that's been great. It's kind of like, you know, I do that too sometimes. I'm like, I don't know that step. But, you know, I think we've learned a lot from Zoom that we can take back into the studio when we do get back into the studio. So, yeah, I mean, I taught for a little bit at the start of, I taught studio kids like before the summer, and then just a couple of classes throughout the summer on Zoom. But, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, I'll say, I mean, I think I'm always just like going the opposite direction, because that just works for my brain. And I've definitely been challenged to, my choreography retention skills have been challenged and built up.
Yeah.
Just because I'm like staring at this tiny box.
Yes. I mean, it's not easy, but we've all gotten better at it, right?
Yeah.
I used to always be like, I'm not going to learn from the computer. Like, I used to have shows that I had to learn on video. They'd send me the video to learn the choreo, and then we'd have like a rehearsal, and I used to be like, oh, I'm just gonna wait, like I'm just gonna like look at the steps and have a vague idea. I'm just gonna wait till we get in the room. But like, you can do it. It's just extra brain cells we have to use.
Yeah. And I think access is another key point. Like, never before have I been able to take a class from San Francisco Ballet.
Yeah.
In my living room. So I think that's a cool aspect that we can carry forth. I think there are also questions about safety and like, you know, if the teacher can't see you. But I think, you know, those are the questions we can answer to the best of our ability and take what's advantageous about it, you know, take that forward, even when, God willing, knock on wood, we get past this thing.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, all right. So I think like second to last question I have, what are you doing next that our audience members can support, follow, engage with? What can we do to support? What can we expect from you?
Yeah, I mean, Vivid is still in its early stages. It's growing, and obviously dance studios are going back to their studios now. So a lot of Vivid should be happening shortly. And if you're interested in completing Vivid, like it's at Vivid Dance _ Instagram. You can just send me a DM, and we can do that course like over Zoom or with your studio for professionals and younger artists. So that's available anytime. And then me personally, I am just starting to get back into the swing of things now. I feel like 2021, early 2021 is when things will start there'll be some opportunities. So just like, I'm just trying to start getting back into like the training mindset in class and submitting for whatever I can find online. So just trying to, you know, get that performing arts career back on track, even though there's not a lot right now.
I think you will. I think you'll be right on track. Yeah, I'm also starting to design a yoga program for studios, which maybe that expands to individual dancers. Like, you got my wheels spinning. So I appreciate that.
You should do it.
I tend to start things and not finish them, so this is going to happen.
It's going to happen. You got to say it.
All right. Well, that's all I have. If you have any parting words, anything else left you want to share that I didn't ask about, please feel free.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I just would say to younger dancers, which is what I say in Vivid all the time, is it might seem like a lot, you might not know where you're going, but if you just have an idea, just follow like the next immediate step, and then that's how you make some progress. And when you make progress, you feel motivated. So, and if you need support, you can reach out to me at Vivid, and we can do a Vivid course together.
Yeah, we will link to everything, so our audience has the info. And I don't know if people heard, just for proof that Hannah is indeed in New York City, I think I heard a bird, and then siren, and then a truck.
Oh yeah, I'm so sorry.
I love it. I love it.
You're a garbage truck. Like they're so loud. Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you, Hannah, for joining us. Please like and subscribe if our conversation resonated with you, and we will see you again soon. Happy rest of the day, everyone. Bye. Thank you.